the neighbor just said to me, like, what is it really going to take to get a pool back at the park?
I think it's going to take a lot of patience. First of all, it's going to take a lot of money. We're going to have to do private public fundraising, get some partners in here. I will absolutely reach out to Harley Davidson and the Brewers and other businesses that are in District 15. But I mean, Washington Park is visited by people from all over the county. So we don't have to limit ourselves to those businesses in our district. I don't know if we would keep the pool exactly where it's at either. I think that would be something parks would want to look at the park and say, what if we moved it over here? Would that make more sense? And again, I don't know what the future pool situation will be, but I do know that the people that I've already started working with, which is Adrian at Rooted and Rising, she wants an aquatic center. Elizabeth is one of the people who was the lead fundraiser for Hoyt Pool. So I think she's great to have on board. And then we've got Becky Stoner, who is with the Parks Foundation.
Yeah, because you mentioned it because, for example, I ended up going to Hoyt because this park doesn't have a pool.
Right.
And then they seem to go through the same problem, a little bit ago in the 90s. They were like, we can't fix the pool anymore. And then it's not working. Then they seem to find like a nonprofit entity. Maybe they somehow lease the land, that, but then maybe somehow lease the land from the county, some kind of agreement. And then they run it as a total nonprofit business. And they have to manage like entry fees and fundraising and special events and members only events. And
it's the
all that
Friends
kind of
group
stuff.
that runs it. It's Friends of Hoyt Park and Pool. And they signed a lease agreement, I think $1 a year, because that's what we do for everybody.
So at this point, the chat box should be open, and then everybody should be all ready to go on sound and everything. So if you have something to put into the chat box, we can get to those questions later. Our county supervisor has those questions from you all. We've been working on this for about a month, submitting questions online. The next question goes towards the park again. Just neighbors talking about safety. When you look at actual statistics, like actual crime statistics, technically the park is safer than every neighborhood that's around it. Okay, but there's a perception because when something does happen in the park, then what happens is it probably automatically gets on the news. It's probably an outlier event. It could actually be people who don't belong there at 11 o'clock at night when it's closed technically. But what is your solution when it comes to like crime and safety sometimes in these parks?
Well, I hosted a summer safety meeting last month that some of you were at. I think the biggest thing that we can do as citizens and park lovers is use the park. Go out and walk in groups, get your dogs out there, make sure that anyone who would want to do something like sell drugs or anything like that sees that it's an active park. So I think that is the freest way and the most reasonable way for citizens to get involved for sure. There aren't a lot of incidents at Washington Park, but we had, of course, a shooting last June, and we just had another fight recently that started, I think, between girls, actually, that then bled into a neighborhood. But it's unfortunate that when we have a shooting, it's going to make the papers, it's going to make the news. I don't know what the solution is. I just think one of the solutions is we just have people who care. And I think everyone around Washington Park cares. And so we've already checked that off. So I think that's good. Now I feel like we need to activate the people on the other side of the park. So we've got, Washington Heights, we have you guys, you all are very active in the park and you want to see it thrive. And then on the other side of the park, we don't have as fortunate people. And maybe it's more renters, maybe it's more transient, and maybe they don't feel like they have ownership of the park like you guys do. And I think that we need to make sure that they do feel like they have ownership, that they make a difference and they can use this park and keep it safe as well. So I would love to activate the whole area, not just a couple sides of the park.
That makes sense. Like we want to fully utilize the park because then we have the area by the Urban Ecology Center. There's a number of nice people who are using the park up there. The soccer practice and using the center, and that center is brand new and it's really has a prominent presence over there, but that's on one side. And then when we look at the next event that's happening tomorrow is the Washington Park Wednesdays. We have neighbors going there tomorrow with food trucks and vendors.
And I am so surprised. I'm actually hosting Washington Park Wednesdays next week, the following week, and then the very last night. So please come out and see me. But one thing that I'm always shocked about when I came last year, because I've been on to Chill in the Hill. I don't know if any of you have ever gone to Chill in the Hill. It is packed. And there are not enough people at Washington Park Wednesdays. So we need to be bringing our neighbors, our family, and our friends out and with a picnic blanket and just enjoy the beautiful scenery, enjoy the amphitheater and whoever's performing.
Got you. So, whether it's powers that be or media folks, like, it seems like sometimes Chill on the Hill and Humboldt Park, and they get a lot of social media publicity. Easily from the county sometimes. We also have like WISN and all these news channels picking up stories like that, but I don't know if there's anything we can do as individuals to help get that kind of stuff on the news.
Yeah, I think, whoever has social media here, go to Washington Park Wednesdays, take pictures, post it, spread the word that it's a great concert series, it's safe. And it's not overly crowded. So there's plenty of places to park. That's not an issue. And if it's a beautiful night, it's what a great place to spend a Wednesday night.
Yep. And then the very first question I asked you was, just describe yourself. Like, you came to Milwaukee just a couple years ago. You wanted to become a Milwaukee County Supervisor, get more involved. Was that something you always wanted to do? Like, think about you as a teenager. Was that something
No, this was not on my bucket list.
Journey in itself.
And in fact, when you say I wanted to be a Milwaukee County Supervisor, that's stretching it as well. But once I saw Peter, he was like, oh no, you're it. You're going to be it. And then he grabbed me by the hand and dragged me across the finish line. And since no one else threw their hat in the ring, I thought, well, I guess this is it. This is me. And I had never been involved in government before, was new to Milwaukee. So the first 6 months, I felt like I was drowning, just way in over my head. One of the things that always saved me was residents, because you guys are all really incredibly civically minded, which I think is great that I have a district like that. But, and I didn't say no to many things last year either. Like if someone invited me somewhere, I went. So I was very, very busy. And sometime toward the end of July, I just said, you know what, this isn't forever. I'm not going to be a supervisor for 12 years or whatever. I can handle this for a couple of years. And then I just kind of relaxed. And now I enjoy it so much better. And because I have made great connections with groups like yours and my other neighborhoods, I feel like I have a little bit more of the ability to say, no, I can't make this event, and not feel like you guys are going to hate me. Gotcha. So, but please still invite me, because I do enjoy doing this. Is the best part, right? Is meeting the people and being at events like this.
Yep. Then a neighbor talked to me and she was like, well, the new sidewalk came in on the north side of Valide Street, but then the neighbor noted that there's a few like bumps or dangerous spots. So how best, because the question reads like you already should know about it, but is it a reporting system? Because we know how to report a problem to the city of Milwaukee about a sidewalk out in front of my house that needs attention. But like, how would they report a problem specifically for the county?
Contact my office. So my email, my phone number. I do have a card with me that I can leave.
We put the email on the slides for everybody.
Perfect. And my assistant is Minay, and she's amazing. I hope she stays for a long time, because she really is a go-getter, and she worked in the court system before. So she's got a wealth of information. But yeah, if you see something that's happening and that structurally needs fixing, absolutely contact us. And then we go ahead and contact the parks, and then I get back to you. If you email me and you don't hear from me in within 24 hours, email again or call, because that's pretty unusual. I do try to check things every day.
Cool. And then we talk about safety, and then the next topic is basically the bus system, MCTS. There's been I see it on the news, like drama about a budget and it's not correct and there's a shortfall. And then one of the latest things that we heard from the news was apparent, I don't know if a bus driver can police this, because a bus driver drives, right? But apparently people can get on the bus, they just don't pay at all.
Yeah,
and then other people see that too. Other people, a gentleman got on the news and he was like, well, I see people all the time. But then it's a lot to ask a bus driver, what are we going to do? Stop the bus and everyone's late because someone doesn't want to pay?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize that riding for free was such an issue. But apparently, if we even had half of those people pay, we would have $4 million more in the budget for that every year. So I think it's critical that we come up with a system for that. And I don't know if it's making it super easy to buy a card, how you pay. I think looking at cities like Chicago, who has a great public transit system, taking some cues from them, how are they doing it? I think that would be a good idea. And then, yeah, we all were very surprised to find out that MCTS is expecting a $10 million shortfall in the budget. So the director of McDOT resigned, Donna Brown Martin. I really, really liked her and respected her. So I haven't been able to talk to her, but I'm guessing she maybe took an exit as the fall guy for this, but I'm not positive on that.
Right, so yeah, we don't know. They use words like she retired, and I'm like, I understand people retire in this.
She retired in a day. Like she showed up and said, I'm retiring. And she's just such a lovely person and has been with the DOT in Wisconsin in some way for decades.
Because even for a nice lady like that, like there's knowledge that the person leaves with, you know.
And I am definitely not an expert on our transit system, but MCTS they're not county employees. MCTS, they're not county employees. So it's almost like it's a separate business that gets run under Milwaukee County Department of Transportation, but they're not county employees. So like Julie Esch, who is the acting director, she's not a county employee. So, and I would guess that we're going to hear from her at some point about what's happened. But I know when Donna testified in front of our committees, and she talked about increased parts and labor and tariffs and all that stuff, which we're just going to have to, deal with constantly for the next several years. So boy, I wish there were easy solutions to things. I wish we could have a world-class transit system where everyone feels like they can hop on a bus and get where they need to go. Milwaukee County is huge. So if you want to work on one side of the county and you live on the other and you don't have access to a car, I mean, it would be nice if you had that reliable bus system in place, but I'm not sure. And I'm not sure I have any really good details on MCTS.
But we know that solutions coming, or we'll have to figure something out to try to recoup that money. And then as we talk about the park we just talked about a few minutes ago, a neighbor was like, well, we have wonderful events at Washington Park, like the Washington Park Wednesday starts tomorrow. And then they were like, well, there's trauma. There's a lot of things that we need to work on as a community. If there's a neighbor group or a special group of people learning how to put on a different event at the park, whether it's a special ceremony or memorial for trauma, or because that's what that neighbor cares about.
Right.
Who would they try to contact to try to get something like that set up?
So there's already a Washington Park Friends group that meets every single month, and they have a huge group that meets and does this. So they're very active. I think it's Friends of Washington Park. I think there's a Washington Park I know there's a Washington Park Neighborhood Association as well. There's a Washington Heights Neighborhood Association. There's Washington Park Wednesdays, which kind of gets folded into Friends of Washington Park. So if there's no shortage of places to turn to get involved if someone wants to. And I'd be happy to facilitate that. If someone wants to email me and say, hey, I want to get in on Washington Park Wednesdays and help out, that's Melissa Muller. I can hook you up with her, or I want to get it on, volunteer with Friends of Washington Park. We can do that. So
cool. And then just think about it. So in the chat box, neighbors are putting in additional questions. I'll get them on my phone, so I'll be able to ask you in a minute or so. Also think about it. If you're in the audience and you have a question in a few minutes, then you'll have an opportunity to ask your question. This is
such a great setup, by the way.
Right?
This is the most sophisticated neighborhood meeting I've ever been to. It's amazing.
We are trying a new direction with this. So as we move forward, we're going to ask your opinion. If you like this kind of setup, if you like these kinds of meetings, do you prefer weekdays? So just think about how you would respond to something like that.
And I do appreciate that you worked around when I could be available on a weeknight. So I appreciate that.
Yep. So then we also think about what's happening in Milwaukee County when it comes to senior centers and what happened on the east side of Milwaukee with a senior center that was McGovern.
I can definitely talk about this.
Yeah. So the idea, I guess, was that we were going to have a combination center plus senior housing.
We had a $2 million grant that was earmarked toward affordable housing. and the department heads for DHHS, parks, DOS, our administrative services, the county executive, they came up with, what if we used it at McGovern? McGovern is falling apart. The foundation is cracked. We cannot put any more money into it. What if we used $2 million to do that and then paired up with Jewish Family Services? They will contribute, I think they were going to contribute like $12 million to build affordable senior housing on the same property, the same footprint-ish. And then we would still need to find $5 million in private funding. So, and this was hugely controversial on the board, not controversial and not in a horrible way.
It seems like neighbors or other folks,
so
they spoke out. They didn't like it.
Yeah. I had people speak out on both sides, and I actually voted for it in the end because out of everyone that contacted me or that I talked to in person, and I went to a Story Hill neighborhood association meeting during this time. There were 50 people there. 1 out of the 50 didn't want this. The rest were like, yeah, that sounds pretty cool. Could we do it at Washington Park? So I ended up voting for it. It did not pass. The one thing that I hated voting for it was because my colleague Felicia Martin was so against it, and the people using the senior center were very against it, and the neighbors right there were against it. So, and they seem okay with knowing that in the end, they may not have a senior center, but they're not going to have housing in the park.
Yeah, because that goes to the next question.
Yeah.
Like, we look at this senior center, and every so often there's a little development, little thing they fix in there.
I think you got new HVAC this last year.
Yes, but it's like everything's getting old. So everything's getting old. So at some point, stuff gets replaced. New roof or new this, new that, new structure even. Nothing's forever.
And I'm sure you've heard the phrase that we have $500 million in deferred maintenance for parks buildings.
And that probably includes the senior centers too?
Includes the senior centers. So again, I think senior centers are more valuable than ever because our population is growing older. We have a bigger group in the 55 and up population. I'm getting close to that. So I would love to have state-of-the-art senior centers that are, our people can enjoy. So if it were to come up again and Washington Park would be an option, I would canvass everybody, see what people think. I will say that a lot of people don't like change. And there are a lot of people who love this park the way it is and don't believe anything should ever change in it. They think Olmsted should, be able to come back and walk through the park just as he designed it. So that's one of the biggest hurdles of being a county supervisor is just talking people through change, because change is scary. And often it has the potential to be something amazing, but you just have to kind of get over that fear of the unknown. And then trust in whoever's doing the work, trust in the community, trust in your government, which I know it's a big ask sometimes.
Gotcha. So then as we continue to talk about county government, I appreciate you being here. In the chat box, make sure you're logged in, because that's something I learned this evening, just looking at text messages from neighbors. Make sure you're logged in. You should see your name maybe on the upper right-hand side that has your Gmail or your username or something, so you can make a comment, because if you don't see that, you're going to have difficulty making a comment, because it needs to know who you are as a system on YouTube. As we talk about the county, the next thing is like the sheriff's department. They have a pretty difficult job. It's also, you could tell it's a bigger part of the budget because you're paying for people, right? Paying for people and benefits.
So I don't know if I've learned so much in the last year. I would not have been able to talk intelligently about this a year ago. But out of our budget, 80% covers mandated services. Mandated services are things that Madison say we have to pay for. So, and a big chunk of that is the sheriff's department. And the sheriff's department has an issue right now. It's been going on for a while where they can't recruit enough people to fill all the positions that they need. So then they have mandatory overtime for people who are on staff. They get burned out and quit, or they use FMLA time very, I don't know what the word I want to say, but
they use it.
They're using the FMLA time a lot, maybe not as judiciously as FMLA time is. So then
we have this issue back and forth.
Right.
Like it costs money for people.
That's why we have overtime then.
Yeah. Then we have limited resources from Madison and from elsewhere. And then what happens is then neighbors have a concern because they see about the latest shooting on the highway, or they see how there's an incident at the park or at Bradford Beach, and there's a need for people.
Now, we did get some good news from the last budget. We still need a lot more resources back for Milwaukee County, but the state budget has $450 million in it for us over the next 22 years to build the new safety building. So that is something that won't be on our tax rolls. And then we also did get some money to cover some of the sheriff's things. We're the only county that has to pay our own way with the sheriff as far as highway patrol. The state covers every other county in the state. So we have had, there's just been Milwaukee County has faced, I think, a lot of challenges. And I know well before I came here, there was the pension scandal, and that still lingers and it's
people
a
still
shadow,
get paid.
shadow over our head. But with our county executive and our board and our lobbyist, we've made inroads. They can see that we are a group of people that is collaborative and wants to work together. We don't want to be constantly clawing for our share back. And I think they're, seeing that. So hopefully every year we will see a little bit more coming back to Milwaukee County.
As we look at the county, we have the same kind of, whether we call it deferred maintenance happening at the courthouse, whether they seem to want a new redesign for safety and movement of people and stuff like that through the courthouse. And we talk about the domes. The domes have another deferred maintenance, and there's a game plan, I guess, for that too.
Well, so we had domes. The domes initiative was before the Parks Committee today. And last year in the county budget, the board approved $30 million over 6 years as our contribution to rehab the domes. So this is a really big thing because the Friends of the Domes secured, I think, $80 million, but they could only do that if the county was willing to contribute something. It's a really, really big ask, $5 million over the next every year for 6 years. That means that there are going to be projects that we say no to because we've said yes to the domes. The domes are an institution here, and people love it, no matter if you're in Waukesha County, Milwaukee County, whatever. So I think the board, they're special. So I think the board sees that. And even when it passed today, the appropriation for the first $5 million passed today with only one holdout, and that was Supervisor Steve Taylor, who's very fiscally, on the nose on things. So, but even he, I think, would be happy if we could figure out how we're going to do this and not sacrifice other projects.
Got it. And then before we go to questions from the chat box, and then we have audience questions too, if there's any. The last question before we go to the chat box or anybody else is, I guess there's and I saw it, it's like a 100 kilowatt hour turbine, and it helps self-sustain that area. It's at the port of Milwaukee. It generates 1.4 million, I guess, kilowatt hours, making that site kind of net zero. And then I guess and I've been on the roof at the Milwaukee County, downtown library, that's a city property, right? So that the city has that property, and they make electricity too. So a neighbor comments and says, "Oh, is there a way to be more creative on how we work our budget and make money? Do we use more green technology to try to help?"
I think that's a very valid question. And I do think we have a group of people at the county who are constantly trying to think of how are we going to pay for this? What can we do differently? We want to be greener. We just approved some electric vehicle chargers. Some will actually go into Washington Park. But I don't know specifically. That was the first time I had heard about the port and that fan that generates electricity. So it's something that I can look into. But I'm sure it's something that someone has been thinking of. But again, maybe it isn't. So then that's why you have to go ahead and email me or call me and say, "Hey, I just saw something really cool. Can the county do this?"
Yeah. And then a neighbor came up with another creative idea, and everything costs money, right? So does Milwaukee County have mounted horses and police? They help maybe help with Bradford at the end of the evening, try to close the place down after sunset? You know, could they like help a little bit more in the parks or?
I don't think we have any horses.
Okay.
I'm wondering if we have segways. We might have some segways. I'm not sure. Milwaukee,
I think
city of Milwaukee
does. We have them at the picnic.
Yeah, but I don't know that the county has anything like that. And we have specific sheriff's deputies that are assigned to the parks. So, and there is a parks sheriff's number if something's happening in the park, like if it's 10:30 at night and you're seeing activity, there's a specific number you can call to alert the sheriff about that. So I can find that again and send it out to you.
Yep. And I appreciate you answering one of our questions already in the email that I can share with neighbors. The question's basically about housing and paying property taxes. There's resources out there for help, because as we pay for things like the senior center, I feel like the senior center is a great resource for people because it just helps make some things affordable. Like they have a special program there. You can get a discounted lunch at the senior center, discounted activities at the senior center. So as a senior ages in their home, right? Hopefully me someday I get to stay in my home as long as possible. There's resources out there, you know, not directly with the county, but like out there to help people
and our
pay.
Department of Aging definitely looks for different grants. We had ARPA money that we were able to use to help subsidize seniors living at home who needed major repairs to their house. That list was so long, and I don't know if we've run out of that budget or not. But I did send Ray a link for one of the an organization that can possibly help with lowering property taxes, or, you know, at least arguing that your property taxes should be lower. So
I have a couple more questions, but is there any questions from the audience that I can help with? Yep. Any other questions? All right, Mike.
Sky, thank you very much for being here.
Mike Howerton?
Yes. Do you send out many emails?
I do send out an email. I try to do it monthly. The last 6 months, it's been every other month. So if you want to get involved and get those emails, you just have to sign up, and you can do that on my county website page. So if you go to Milwaukee County wi.gov, I believe, you can go and find your supervisor, and then there's a sign up link.
Well, I guess I need to make sure that I'm really signed up. I thought I was, but I guess I would urge you to send emails about your activities more frequently.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just sent one out before the 4th, so look for your inbox and see if you can see one from Sky, or maybe it went to junk.
It shows like a generational change in communication, because one thing I noticed from you is a lot of social media. So I can say, oh, Sky's working on this, Sky's working on that. So I feel like that's wonderful. It seems like maybe a neighbor didn't get that.
Well, and every supervisor is different. Sheldon Wasserman sends out an email every week. I think every Friday he sends something out with something to know. I don't want anyone to feel like, oh my God, I have another email from Sky. So I've been trying to do it monthly, and I do recap most of the things that I've done, and I include pictures. So if I've been at an event with you, you might see your picture in my email. And I do keep myself busy, but I thank you. I will try to make sure that I'm there monthly. The last Friday of the month.
Got it. So we're checking the chat box. We're going to wrap this up in a few minutes. We appreciate you coming, you know, this evening to help us out. Is there any other questions from the audience? Okay. So my final question to you is, we appreciate you, you know, as a county supervisor, you know, participating on neighborhood activities or events. You know, we've seen you, you know, multiple times already. And we appreciate you with your social media. We've seen that kind of stuff. How can we support you as the county supervisor?
Oh, everyone follow me on social media, and get your friends to follow me too. How can you best support me? Honestly, I said this earlier, my neighborhoods are so civically active. So I guess the best way to support me is just making sure that you're telling me what's going on in your neighborhood. And even if it's something that is maybe city related, you know, I work with Charlene Moore. I can at least guide people to where you need to go for answers on things. So just support me by, you know, being nice. I can't tell you how often when I send out my emails, I usually get a couple responses back, like, thank you so much for all you do. But then every once in a while, I get some grumpy people. So yeah, don't be the grumpy people.
We'll wrap this up. And then I want to thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, I have a couple things I want to say,
Yeah,
actually.
and I see what's awesome is when a county supervisor brings a box of cool stuff for neighbors.
Okay, so we moved here 3 years ago. We have been hit 3 times. We've had 3 cars be hit. Driving here is atrocious, and it is on everyone's shoulders to be better. I think we all get behind the wheel. We relax. We think the place I need to go is the most important place. So I am on a campaign for safer driving. And one of the things that I did last year with my budget was buy car cell phone holders. So these hook on to the air vent so you can have both hands on the wheel, because we are not a hands-free state. You can't text and drive. That will get you a ticket. But otherwise, apparently you can just be like on the phone and it's okay. So not in construction zones. They could ticket you there. So anyway, I have these. I still probably have 400 left. So I'll be at Washington Park Wednesdays tomorrow, and I'll have some with me. I paired up with Harley Davidson and the Brewers for this, and we hosted a great drive-through event, and Pat was there. But it was, in January,
so that's
and
like
I
a hands-free device thing.
Hands-free device. So that's one thing I wanted to talk about. The other thing is, one of the things that's really bothering me is how divisive politics are. And so I went to a seminar last summer about Final Five voting, and it really piqued my interest. It takes the political parties out of the primary and lessens the effect of special interest money and the political parties in the general election. So I am hosting an event on that. And currently we have the primaries. People can vote in the primary right now. It is, what is your favorite ice cream topping? So we have 10 ice cream toppings. The top 5 I will buy. And then at the event will be the general election where people can try each of the 5, and we'll see how ranked choice voting works. And so
would that be something at an event like the Washington Park Wednesdays, like the next time you host or?
Well, I'll have this information tomorrow.
Cool.
But the event itself is July 22nd, and it's in West Milwaukee. You can contact me if you would be interested. I'm co-hosting this with Steve Taylor, who is very conservative compared to me, and John Stileski, who's the president of West Milwaukee. Both of them are more conservative than I am.
And then a quick question is the district, right? Where we are. We talk about this is District 15.
Yes.
But it goes from here basically all the way, I say all the way to Alverno.
Yes. Yeah. So my house is just south of Alverno. I am the southernmost part of our district. We have all of West Milwaukee, part of West Dallas, and then we come all the way up here to Washington Park. So I go from the south to the north side, and just the valley. We've got a great topography. We have great people, really.
Cool. And you talk about the next one.
One last thing is Safe Talk is a suicide prevention program that I'm also hosting at the Serb Hall on Oklahoma. And this is a tour that was brought on by Alderman Jonathan Brostoff's suicide last year. I did the training. It's 4 hours. Very, very valuable. So I would love it if people would like to attend. They have to RSVP because it is a limited amount of space. And that is August 20th from 2 p.m. to 6. And there is, I'll leave these
because
with
we can
you.
get that on social media.
Yeah, I'll leave these with you, but I highly recommend doing that. And then the last one is just some upcoming events the next couple months. So I'll leave that with you as well. And I love seeing friendly faces, and so I would love to have you come out.
So we can add those to the slides. We have the slides posted online, so it's easy to add that to it as PDFs and everything.
I think that's all that I wanted to make sure I plugged. So
cool. Anything else? All right.
Yeah, it's
Thank
hot.
you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys very much.
So as we continue with neighborhood business, we'll go through events. So just think about today is day 1. We're going to continue forward. Next, we would have Jerry on the second slide as we talk about the Martin Drive Community Gardens. Jerry's going to come up in a second and speak with us about gardens and all the updates you have about it.
And does anyone here want
Yep.
one of these before I leave?
Okay.
Okay, so I'll leave a bunch of them right here. That's okay. Yep.
Cool.
And then there's safe driving tips too.
And then we're going to make sure we put all of those events on our slide page. So as we continue to talk about tonight's meeting and these neighborhood events, as we're on the second slide, Jerry's here with us and he's going to just talk about the community gardens.
Are you going to interview me, Raymond?
No, I think you got this. And I appreciate Sky.
Because you're
and
really
everything she
good at
did.
that. I feel like
But I mean, Jerry, this garden started in 2009, and then you take it over. And then what are we working on this year?
okay. Well, I'm pleased. Jerry Burns is my name. I'm pleased to be with you. I get to be in the limelight and to see all of these wonderful smiling faces. But really, I don't think Sky would want to adopt my style of leadership, which has mostly been to lead by being absent.
Oh, no.
So literally, I have only been in Milwaukee about 10 days this summer. And I really didn't like phone it in from Slovenia or anything either. But the reason that I've been able to quote unquote lead in my absence is because of about 4 things that we did hammer out. And you were part of some of this. So join right
So
in.
you talked about, I see this year you have names. It seems to be very organized. You have names for the gardens. I recently heard there's 2, it's not raised beds, but there's like 2 platform beds.
Mhm.
Those are available still. And should they just email you directly? I think Elise wanted people to email her.
Yeah. So part of the reason the garden has been able to thrive without me being there is that over the last few years, we've evolved a good organizing committee, and Jacqueline Ward is part of that. Elise, who lives right next to the garden, is part of that as well. And Pat Miller has contributed a lot as well. So when I'm gone, I don't have any worries that things are going to go astray in my absence. The other thing that we hammered out in the last few years that allows me to be absent and have the show go on is we hammered out a number of different rules. So like one of the rules is if you haven't planted your plot by June 15th, it's not going to happen. So in that case, we reassign it. Another rule that we have is if your fruit, your produce is overripe come September and you're back in school or whatever, and you've forgotten about the garden, that the organizing committee has the right to pick your fruit and give it to a food pantry, because it's a terrible thing to see beautiful tomatoes and going to rot. So we put that rule into effect. The other thing that allows us to kind of lead while being absent is a set of core values, I guess you'd say. And one of the values is to make the garden widely accessible to people of all ages, young people as well as the elderly, to have it be a focal point and a venue for other activities. So last year, Terry had organized music nights, sing-alongs, and so on. And of course, we want it to look really good for the picnic. And Raymond has had his movies over there. And I guess a third core value has been, and we've been doubling down on this, is to make it more accessible to people with mobility issues. And so like right now, all of the in-ground beds are spoken for. But last year, with the aid of a grant from Greater Milwaukee Foundation, we were able to build 9 garden tables that are like waist high. And so a person can garden without having to bend down.
There's 2 of those available.
Yeah, we still have 2 of those available. One of the things that I have been doing in my absence is thinking about the garden a lot and perhaps overthinking. And it occurs to me that there are really 3 cycles that would be nice to get into alignment but sometimes they're in conflict with one another. And the one cycle is the Wisconsin growing season, which actually I think is getting longer. I'm not sure that's a good thing for the planet, but I was going to be out of town for a month, and so I cheated and put my garden in the middle of May instead of the traditional Memorial Day, and that was just fine.
It
And
worked out okay. This year it worked out okay.
yeah, I wouldn't want to do it every year, but conversely, last year I was still picking things in early November. So the Wisconsin growing season is one cycle. Another cycle is people's vacationing and the school day cycle. And so unfortunately, when Labor Day comes around and then kids go back to school and teachers go back to their jobs, sometimes people kind of forget about the garden, you know.
Yeah, because at the end of the season, describe what you would like people to do.
Well, we're going to try and have some gatherings and programs to keep people focused, you know, when the boys of summer are gone, that they're still thinking about their garden.
Okay. Anything else?
And then there's one other cycle, and this one is the grant writing and grant proposing and grant funding cycle. And we've been able to do a whole lot last year because we got this grant from the Greater Milwaukee Foundation in concert with Near West Side Partners. And unfortunately, the grants weren't, it wasn't open for grants until April. So by the time we knew that we had the grant last year, it was like mid-July. And by the time we got the money, it was August. So that cycle kind of made gamblers out of people like me who's never bought a Powerball ticket. So if you look at the financial report for our neighborhood group, it'll show that I was given $1,300 by MDNA.
But that's more like a reimbursement for supplies and stuff.
Yeah, that was not for leading the caroling session at your house.
Right.
It was for reimbursement for things that I had purchased months earlier.
Yeah, so basically, Charlotte would talk about briefly in her financial report at the end of this, but basically you submit a receipt and then there's a reimbursement.
Yeah. So this year, we also, on a smaller, less ambitious scale, we also applied, Jacqueline Moore did, for that grant. And I've been told that we've got it, but when we will know for sure, and when I can get reimbursed for my cedar wood from Bliffert's, who knows?
Yeah.
So
got it. So that's coming up. And then thank you so much for helping out this year, Jerry.
thank you, Raymond.
Yep. Questions for Jerry?
Having to do with
In
accessibility.
the chat box too.
No,
sorry.
this is real live, Pat Miller. Having to do with accessibility at the garden, the thing that needs to be done, and I would like to put together a volunteer night, is the area of the old driveway. It's got all kinds of mulch and weeds, and so to walk over it to get to the water bin is really hard. And there's tools laying there that aren't in the tool shed. But anyway, I would like to organize either a Saturday morning, and I like doing things early when it's cool, or I like doing it about this time when it's cool. I hope that somebody will chip in and help with that. And regarding the grant, when I talked to Jacqueline, I think on Sunday when I was at the garden doing something, she has not heard anything about the grant this year yet.
I heard from her today that,
Okay.
that she did, but that unlocking the money is, several other layers of bureaucracy and several spools of red tape. And
Okay.
but let me just say that Pat was also responsible for this. Is one of the ways of making it more accessible to people with mobility issues is by the tables, we are putting dedicated rain barrels so that the person doesn't have to traverse the admittedly really uneven ground to the big water tank. So Pat just this last week introduced a a water barrel that, right by the table. The other thing is that last August, if you remember, I don't know, only gardeners remember these kind of things, but last August was really, really dry. Do you remember?
Yep.
And that
So we have a hydrant set up.
Yeah, and that huge tank that we had was completely dry. This year, thanks to Raymond, we have a water hookup to the fire hydrant. So if that happens again, we can still keep things water.
Yeah.
I know, by the way, the buddy system I mentioned, lots of people leave for a couple of weeks in August. Just let us know and we'll keep your garden watered.
Got it. So we keep checking the chat box if there's any questions, but if there's any questions here, yeah. So if you want to talk live or if you want to talk later, go ahead. Is there any, do you want to talk? Go ahead.
Do you know if that hose that went all along the fence line to the rain barrel is still there?
Yeah.
It is?
It is.
Is there any other questions about the community garden?
Thanks so much. This is really fun.
That was cool.
You're a
Thank you,
great
thank you,
interviewer.
thank you. Yep. So next we have movie nights. We'll go through this because our goal for these kinds of meetings is to have it be just about an hour. So we're getting close, but we still are good within our time frame. So movie nights, it's on the third slide that we have out there on that could be shown on a video. As we talk about our movie nights, we have a website for it, and you could just look at the website. We have this Friday coming up. So Wednesdays at the Shell. Friday, we have 2 different events at the same time. Valete Street's having a Bastille Day. So if you're interested in food, you grab some food over there, and you can still come over for the movie night, and that's going to be the 2019 film, The Lion King. So it looks like real live animals, but they get to talk too. And then afterwards, it's the newest film, and it's the Lion King 2024 film that's called Mufasa, The Lion King. So it just came out recently. So later on, when we talk about our budget, these films are shown with permission. You have to ask permission. We just, the FBI warnings that we have on our videos, that's legit. You got to have permission for these films. So as we talk about the rummage sale, which is next on the next slide, Sharon's been helping us for many, many years and has a wonderful framework. So we should congratulate her on all that framework that she has in place. So we're going to put out signs in a few weeks. We appreciate people like Arlene putting out those signs to remind neighbors, remind the community that these events are happening. So such as the rummage sale on August 2nd from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can register for free. So there's different ways to register. You could do the paper form that we deliver to houses because we want everyone to be able to access technology so they can fill out the paper form and do it online. So the picnic's coming up. That's August the 9th. It's 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. So as Charlotte talks about the financial report, we want an RSVP. So there's a link to that RSVP because we want to know how many people are coming. We want to know how many hot dogs and brats and things like that we're going to buy. The game night is going to be here. It's the Friday after Labor Day. So the Friday after Labor Day, we're going to talk about game night, and that's here at the Washington Park Media Center. So that's right here at 4303 West Valete Street. That we had the one here at 5 o'clock back in the day in February, a part of the West 43rd Street events. We had it with them for that event, but we're having the game night for summer. That's just coming up in September. We seem to have less events in September, so that's kind of how we scheduled it. It's not going to compete against something like we want neighbors to go to the Washington Park for Wednesdays at the Shell. So we want neighbors to participate. So that's why we put the event, the Friday after Labor Day. So there's a website link for that too. We'll have that on the slide. As we talk about, nighttime trick-or-treating.
And Terry can take over with that.
So Terry would come up in a minute to just talk about the game plan for that. And as we talk about volunteers and money and cost and everything, she'll be able to explain more on that kind of stuff. So come on up, Terry.
Come on up, Terry.
Do you want to just come up, Terry, and just
You-
describe what is
You had
what is
things that
nighttime
you
trick or
wanted
treating?
to explain that's different this year.
Yes. Okay, so our annual it's our 33rd year. Everybody, yay. I think I've been doing it for 8 to 10 years already. It's time to retire. So it's going to be Friday before Halloween. It's always the Friday before Halloween. Halloween is on Friday the 31st. I took control and did it the Friday the 24th. The reason I'm doing that is because when we had our Halloween before Halloween on a weekend kind of a thing, it was really, really hard to get volunteers. There's lots of Halloween parties that start on Friday. So anything on Friday and Saturday is like gone to the wind. So it's the 24th. The street is always announced the week of, so don't ask anymore. And we're going to have somewhere between 300 and 350 kids come, because that's what we've been having the last 3 years. 325. I think we met 350 last year. It takes 80 to 100 volunteers, not counting the houses that are on the street that are going to be candy volunteers, host's house. I get extra volunteers to fit in places where the owners can't be there for one reason or another, or then there's a loophole in there and you want to fill it up because I don't want the kids going houses away from the next one. We want it to be continual and safe. So what we normally do is, this is the pattern. The beginning of October, someone's go out, they put a note on the chosen street, every house, every mailbox that says you are the chosen street for Halloween this year. And there's a bunch of questions on there. And the questions are, do you want to be a hosting house? Do you want to do the hosting? Or do you want to volunteer? And can you provide all 350 pieces of candy, or at least half? That is all logged on a table so that we can see where the holes are and who needs what, because the neighborhood provides that candy that the homeowner can't or won't, because they're not home and they don't want to be a part of it for whatever reason. From that point, it takes at least 2 times, because we put the notices up on the houses. We tell them on that notice that we will be back in 2 or 3 days. And then we knock on every single door, hoping that they put them out. Lots of them are being taped on doors, which we're really happy about. But then we knock on the doors until somebody answers. That means that somebody has to go up and down that street 2 to 4 times to make sure that we have everybody. And that takes a lot. So we have a neighbor, Rebecca Robinson, who is going to take that over. So if you would like to help her with that, let me know. I will hook you up with her, because she would love to have some volunteers. The next thing we do is registration. Registration will no longer be online. The reason for that is, and don't kill me, it's just way too complicated for some. For me especially, because I have to keep track of who did online, who came to my door, who dropped it off in the tub, did they give me the candy, did they give me the money, did they give the right money, and then make sure they get their bags for the kids. It's less work just coming to my house and registering. I have been known to be up at 11 p.m. and midnight waiting for somebody to get off work to come to my door, because I will not turn any neighbor away for that. All kids should be trick-or-treating and getting candy. The people who register
It's $1 per child. And I had to raise it to 170 pieces of candy per 2 children. We do get donations, both candy and money. That is used to purchase the week of, after I've counted everything, any needed candy, because by then I know how many candy stations we're going to have and who needs how much, whether they need all 350 or half of that 100 and that 350. The candy bags, as they come in with registration, get separated immediately into 170 and 350 bags. And they get allocated to the homes and the volunteers who are hosting at homes. So I know where everybody's at. The day before, okay, I need to stop and give Mally Vang's family on 42nd Street already stuffed 350 candy bags. That means every child who gets registered gets we have new bags this year, Martin Drive candy bag to collect their candy in. Inside of that are little fun treats and toys for the register. Anybody who registers after 350, no toys. So register right away. And so we have to give her a thank you. Not only did they do that, they counted what was left over. So now I have a total of what I need to order for next year, which is really great. The money taken in pays for, like I said, the candy, and it also pays for the street barriers if we need to, because we have to close down the street, and Pat's going to take care of that. And it also takes care of the toys that go in those bags of fun things for the kids. They always look forward to that. Because there's no online registration, I've included 2 extra registrations for people, and that will be out and noticed so everybody knows what to do and when they are. So there's lots of times for people to come. I need volunteers to be at the tables when they come at my house. There may be a chance that I am not going to be here for the first registration, but we have volunteers for that as well. Pat's going to be there, and I forgot it. And Christine is going to help. We have our photograph person for the haunted or the Halloween setup. She's still on board, and Christine and Kevin are still on board to set up. We have, what else do we have? I can't remember now. I'm thinking, huh? And Raymond and Joe do their trunk and treats at the end of the stations, at the end of the streets. And it's just a lot. We have a lot going on for an hour. Let's see, what else? Jerry Burns is our person for passing out extra candy in case somebody gets a little heavy-handed and they run out of candy. He goes up and down the street and is the candy man. And last year, Heidi, his wife, helped. And I have an idea for you that I would like to do. The new thing. Oh, wait a minute. Let me think. Okay. So the new thing I'm really kind of excited about is the garden this year is going to be the Garden Spooktacular area. We are going to have a spook area in the garden the Tuesday before our event. It will be donations. And the reason for that is we're using Elise's electricity and anybody else in the neighborhood that we can borrow. There'll be at least 6 stations inside that is ready to help. Christine and Kevin are going to set up in one. I've got 2 ideas, so I need volunteers for that. And Jason and Contessa, who live on Juneau, love Halloween. And we're really disappointed that we were on their street last year, and they're going to take a section as well. So we have 4 out of 6 areas that I would like. I will be asking for volunteers to do that, and I will also be asking for supplies. because we need some lights and we need tarps. We're going to make it like an aisle through there. I think that is it for now. So lots of stuff happening already and in place. And I think that all of our volunteers that we've set up need a round of applause that they can hear right now.
That's going to be a lot, Terry.
I know. Well, we got to get better and better.
Our next one is our Christmas carol.
Yeah, and in the chat box, we're going to keep asking if there's questions or any questions here as we continue to talk about the topics.
Christmas carol.
All right, so Caroline, so Charlotte, do you want to talk briefly about where it was and where it will be?
I don't know where you're going to carol because I don't walk
Okay,
that
yeah, yeah.
much.
So at least
But
for,
we're
for that
going
part,
to-
we're going to tell neighbors email us, right? But like, where was it last year? Like, what?
I don't
Where
remember.
did we end up for the
I
party?
wasn't here last year.
Got it. Oh, where is it usually?
Oh, at your house.
Okay.
The
And then-
Christmas potluck is normally held at Raymond's house on 43rd Street. So we came up with the ideal and started asking, and Denson has offered to sponsor our Christmas party for Martin Drive.
So-
It's still going to be a potluck, but it will have more space across the street.
Yep. So Denison's right across the street from us. It's a wonderful venue to have events and host parties and special things like that. So they're offering to do it. So we're gonna be there. You know, it would be December 9th. You know, at 6:30 p.m. The same Monday, same kind of tradition, but just at a different location. We want to grow this event.
No, it's not the same because
But
they're
yeah,
going
yeah.
to be selling alcohol.
Yeah,
Where
I
we
didn't
had,
sell. Yeah.
where we had just open alcohol, but
Yeah.
the food was always free and everybody
So
participated.
the same setup, but if you want to buy a soda, you buy the soda from
Right.
those people. Go ahead. Yep.
Night. Right.
Yeah. So it's a Monday. It was 8th. Okay, so my mistake. I'll fix that on the slide. So December 8th, it would be at thank you for helping me with that, at 6:30 p.m. We're doing the RSVP because as we get towards the financial report coming up, we need to know who's coming and all those things. Next topic we'll talk about is Tom. He helps us with the red bowls. Charlotte, do you want to describe like how these red bowls come up in the neighborhood? For someone who doesn't know,
That's
right? We
another
know.
volunteer thing. We supply rib bows. This is something that's been going on for how long, Pat? Okay, almost 33 years. And as you know, things wear out and we have to replace them. So we do a GoFundMe for purchasing new rib bowls to go around our trees. So our neighborhood looks nice during the holiday. And we also, like I said, this is a volunteer thing. So therefore we need people to contact
Yep.
Tom Gillard.
Tom Gillard. And then on our slide for the Red Bow Project and how to donate, we keep those GoFundMe links live. We update them as needed. But what's wonderful is someone like Charlotte can see the GoFundMe and a check written to the association, you know, directly, you know, from us in the GoFundMe matches the donation. So that's one way neighbors can donate, because as we do every event, this event we do the potluck coming up for the picnic. We talked about that event. The red bowls, the nighttime trick-or-treating, all those things are donated by us, and it's donated through people going to GoFundMe. And then there's a way to even just write a check, and there's a way to just, you know, drop it off at Charlotte's house, and it'll go into that checking account. You can make the check out to Martin Drive Neighborhood Association, and that helps everybody out. We'll have a tip jar, for example, for events like this one and for things happening at Denison, because nothing's free. We found that out, you know, when the inflation took off, but we understand that nothing's free. We always have a volunteer-driven organization like this. So Charlotte's going to talk next about financial reports,
No, I'm
and
not talking financial, that's last.
that's last coming up. But as we talk about the Red Bow Project, and we talked about the holiday party, you know, there's ways to RSVP for something like that. So go ahead, Charlotte.
And there's nothing wrong with just stopping by with a pot or a dish and staying for a while and enjoying your neighbors. That's how you stay a community that's involved.
The one thing that I wanted to say is that I love this neighborhood.
Yes.
This neighborhood is great, but what makes it a community are the people that are in it. And that's the difference between a neighborhood and a community. And we have a community.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you for that.
And that is so true. And to stay that way, we have to get involved, talk to one another, walk down the streets and say hello.
We have
the
wonderful
mini museums.
So as projects took off in the neighborhood, there's a mini museum by my house. Just take a walk through the neighborhood. Just kind of, they say smell the roses. Walk around, take a look at all the nice things we have. We have little free libraries. We're working always to try to update the neighborhood website. I got a neighbor that's doing like a new inventory because little free libraries are popping up in different locations. So we want to let neighbors know about those cool things.
Before we go into the financials, there's one thing I want to do before anybody steps out of here. We tried something new tonight. We don't know if it'll work. We don't know how you like it versus across the streets, but we are willing to listen to what you have to say. What do you want at your meetings? How often do you want your meetings? Please email us. Talk to us now.
Yep. Any comment? Did you like this? Because we're going to wrap up in a little bit. This was a weekday meeting. We tried a different format. We have questions out there. People can still comment on the chat box, and we'll see that kind of stuff even later. Someone can watch this video at midnight, coming home from work, and still see that. Did you like it? What can we do?
So I'll segue into your financial report. What did we save by not being across the street?
We saved $150.
And then any other comments about this?
Well, this is a wonderful space for a meeting, but whether it's the space or the day, obviously people aren't showing up. So that really needs to be addressed.
We always want to make sure we're reaching out to people. Okay. Yep. Go ahead. I see Terry and I see Jerry.
Is there a way to know how many people can see this live?
Yep. So question is live. We'll get those statistics out there to see what's going on. I'll come back to Jerry.
I already rudely had my say, so I'm sorry.
Okay.
What was it?
What was it? We didn't catch it. Yeah.
Because of the generosity and willingness of our hosts.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yep. So we appreciate the collaborations between neighbors and small businesses like the Washington Park Media Center. They have a number of events, throughout the year. Today was actually their I call it a club day, or it's like a AV club. So imagine people learn technology. There's people behind the scenes learning about technology, for their degree, whether it's at MATC or UWM, learning how to use technology like this. So any other comments or questions? Yep, I see. Yep.
I stopped in and asked at Senior Center why they raised their rates so much. And he said he just started a couple weeks ago. The person that had been charged, Woodward was her name. She retired after all those years. And so he was going to look into their funding structure of how they do that. He thought it was because the county made them, but he didn't know.
And you're on the right track. As I was told, that we all know that the Washington Park Senior Center is operated by another entity. So therefore, they are the ones who supply the manpower for Washington Park. And by the cost of things increasing constantly, they have to increase their fees for operation. So instead of us, since I've been here, it was $100. Then it was $150. Then it went to $200. That's where we're at now, $200 every time we book Washington Park.
So as we get to the financial report, the very last thing we'll talk about today, we learned about everything's not free. So the Red Balls are not free. The trick-or-treating's not free. Everything costs money. We find out from the pandemic how inflation increased a lot. And then we're still kind of paying for that kind of stuff. And we have to pay every time we do stuff.
As you can see on the back of your agenda, we do have money, but we don't want to spend all our money just for meetings because people want to have it every month. That's why we're asking. Email us, CC.
Yep, so it's mdna-cc@googlegroups.com. And then that's how you get in touch with us. The very last slide that's on our presentation today is the contact form. We want to keep publicizing that because we have opportunities to connect. Volunteers we need for nighttime trick-or-treating. We sent out an email today. Terry was wonderful in writing it, talking about we need volunteers. We need to have a game plan already to get going on an event. It's on the 24th, for example, because people would say, how come the nighttime trick-or-treating is not on the 31st? We find that when it's on the 31st, we lost a lot of volunteers because the adults, the folks that would normally help volunteer, and teens, they're doing something already. So that's what's tricky about events is we can't always have something on the day we want it because we have a difficulty. The rummage sale that I talked about earlier for registering for, we want to have that on a different day or a different month, but we ran out of volunteers to do something like that. So the date we have for August is warmer. Other neighborhoods are not doing the rummage sale in August, but then we have volunteers that could actually do it in August. So that's what's tricky about sometimes when we have events like this.
And another thing, if somebody thinks of something that the neighborhood could improve itself on, housing, grants, whatever, get involved. Let us know. Let us work together.
Yep. So that's why that contact page on the last slide is so important because that's just so you connect to people. There's phone numbers too. Like on my email, there's a phone number to call. It's on every email. But often we're text messaging and reaching out so much electronically. We want to reach everybody. That goes back to our survey. We were trying this format because we wanted to try to reach out to more neighbors.
My phone number's not there because I don't want calls.
Yeah.
I get enough spam.
But as we wrap up, if there's anything else.
As we're wrapping up, is there any comments? Please. Online.
Yep.
Our seated audience here.
Yep. So just email us, contact us online. Something I want to say thank you for is thank you to people like Wes. Thank you to people like Charlotte right here, Arlene doing those signs, because every time it rains, the signs get messed up, and it's someone out there doing that.
And we're looking for an ideal of a new signs.
Yeah. And we're just trying to figure out different formats of doing different things and saving money because a chalkboard sign works because it's more affordable than buying signs for every little thing we do. We do a lot almost every month. There's something going on. But everything costs money, right? So there's ways to donate. That's on our slides. You could donate by writing a check, or you can go on the GoFundMe and donate that way. But thank you so much. Thank you, Wes. Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, Arlene.
Okay, our financial.
Yep, go ahead.
It's basic. I'm thanking everyone that has donated to GoFundMe because without the participation of those people donating their monies, we would not be able to do half the things that we do. And it's really appreciated. Halloween, the picnic, the bows, everything we do. Anything that costs money. Our meetings at the center.
But Halloween also, we raise money.
Halloween raises money, yes. We also spend money. But the GoFundMe's basically, the majority of it goes to the funds, the MDNA funds. That's why I says we have money, but we don't want to spend it and keep begging people for money.
we want a balance, right? We always seem to have, we're doing well over many years under your leadership because, for example, we're not losing that money. The money's been kind of steady for
The
a number
money
of
has
years.
been steady.
But we also know
I-
there's only so much, right?
I'm cheap. I won't let it go. But on the back of your agendas, I did do a small breakdown of last year's expenditures and deposits. The plus sign, that's a deposit. The negative sign, that's what we spent. I gave you a beginning balance and end balance. And details, I didn't go really into details what expenses were, but the garden group, their expenses, they had to be paid for the monies that they spent out of their pockets to get reimbursed for. So everyone that expects a reimbursement for MD&A, I write the checks. I don't have a program for checks. I'm not going to spend money for a program for checks because I don't know how long I'll be doing this. But we require 2 signatures for every check that's written. So there's always a check on a check. So nobody's writing checks just to write checks. So to let everyone know, if you reimburse for anything for Martin Drive's activities or community events, I require an invoice, a receipt, something that tells me you spent money and need this reimbursement. And then I'll find someone to sign off on our checks for you.
Okay.
Are there any questions on my little shabby report on expenses and deposits for the year of 2024 and 2025 to June?
Thank you. Because it's not easy balancing the checkbook, right? So we appreciate what Charlotte does.
Yeah, the garden group gave me a headache.
But it was wonderful activities too. So that's
it was great, but we worked well together.
Okay. Anything else? Because we'll wrap up this meeting. We thank everyone for coming today. You can still put comments in the chat box. We can follow up with those. Also, we have the slide presentation that's online that we'll follow up with neighbors with, so we can update that as we go. And it just helps make our events clear. It can talk about the nighttime trick-or-treating being a paper form, some of those details that you may have missed during today's broadcast.
Oh, I did forget one thing. Have you missed your Martin Drive newsletter? Have anyone noticed they haven't gotten any this year? What do you say?
We might need
What's your
volunteers for that
comments?
too. So that's some, yep.
Dave does need comments.
He wanted feedback on the newsletter. Mike says he missed it.
One will be coming out fall, but articles are needed. Writers are needed. Proofers are needed. And it's not something that takes a long time.
So if you want to submit an article, I can make sure it goes to the right people. I'm not going to flood your email box, but if you want to share something important, something you notice, a nice article about anything about the neighborhood, all you have to do is email martin-drive@googlegroups.com. I won't give it to 400 neighbors, but I'll make sure it gets to the right person. So that's something you can easily remember, just martin-drive@googlegroups.com. Plus, if you do need to volunteer, we would like you to volunteer for these different events, you could also email that too, martin-drive@googlegroups.com. Email that place if you would like to volunteer, and I can make sure that gets to the right person. It won't go to everybody, but it'll go to the right person who's looking for you.
Thank you. And we appreciate all your time and efforts.
Yep. Question from the chat, and then I'll take a look at it. I don't see it yet. Do you see it? Go ahead. Yep. Yep.
This is from Amber. Does the MDNA have a wish list for events or items like signs? So some of the businesses or residents could possibly sponsor those items.
Something I found out is We have a number of signs, but maybe we actually found a couple more in the garage. We'll talk to Pat because technically it's her sign from renting apartment buildings. You would basically, back in the day, you would have your sign in the ground and it would say for rent. And you have a sign and that phone number to call. But now everything's electronic. So if most people looking to rent, they go online. So those signs haven't been used in a while. But we want to ask permission. So that's something else. And also for sponsorship. So we're getting bigger as an organization. So for example, the movie nights are not free anymore. So we were able to be under an exemption to have them free because we had such a small group of people going to those movie nights. But now those events are bigger and they're more attended. So we actually have to have, we've done this. We have to have permission to show movies. But there's sponsorship opportunities. There's a packet I have to send out to local businesses. If they want to be a sponsor of movie nights or sponsor of certain events, we could work something out. And then, for example, for the picnic,
To Amber's question.
yeah, for the picnic, what do you think?
We have been investigating signs that we can put out that we wouldn't have to change much for each event. Like if there's a meeting that's going to be on a Saturday, we put out the sign and we could slide in something that says meeting Saturday at such and such. Or neighborhood picnic. We could put out a sign that says MDNA picnic, something that's easier than a chalkboard.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Halloween this year is going to be different too, because trying to collect all those pumpkins is a challenge. So we're going to do something different, and that's going to be on those wonderful, what do they call those, political wire things that people put in. That's like that can just change the date. Oh, thank you.
There's a question.
Another question.
Wes has the mic that moves.
It's like, what happened, my dress?
So back in the day, we used to make nice signs that you could see when you rode by, and the dates were consistent. So all you had to do was change out one or two numbers on the signs, and the neighborhood signs were on a consistent day. And so right before it, we would put out a sign that was nicely printed and professional that said meeting Saturday, because it was going to be, and it was always at the same place. So consistency is kind of important. But back to the sign thing, if anybody has any old political signs that have the kind of bracket that goes like this, we need probably 40 of them. That many anymore. Oh, okay.
Collecting them for a while, maybe 20.
Okay, because I've got maybe 45 that I've saved.
And Becca Robinson is doing the design for that. Okay.
Yep. And then I see another question from the chat. Do we or can we have a survey to distribute to find out our neighbors' needs? So we could do that. There's an old form that we used during the pandemic that we had a number of neighbors help with and respond to, because it was called Help a Neighbor. So if there's a neighbor need that we can try to help with, to survey or distribute to find neighbors' needs. So like the question was, do we or can we have a survey to distribute to find out neighbors' needs?
Can it just go to one of the committee members and then that committee member or can put it out on the neighborhood listserv? We don't have to list names, but rather than go through all the bureaucracy of paperwork.
Yeah.
So we can that's on the website. It was called just Help a Neighbor. It was, and it gets every so often neighbor does click on it. It happened recently, and I'm able to like point the person in the right direction. Person was advertising a service, or a neighbor was out of work and needed some resources, and there's a way to help neighbors out that way. So we want to keep reaching out. Like we have for the rummage sale that's coming up. We had a paper form this year that came out to everyone. A neighbor was nice and took advantage of it, and we got a neighbor registered. We got a neighbor registered just by paper. So that was important feedback that we got.
I noticed that when I was passing out my flyers that a lot of people that I did stop and talk with said, oh, great, we got flyers again. Because I don't always go on my internet or my email. And it's like, for real?
So, and some people are getting sick by email. So as we wrap up this meeting,
Yes.
email is not always the best because people often go through and delete emails. They go to the home email box, realize they have 1,000 of them, and then they just start deleting everything. So then
Anything
you're
else?
not getting the message out sometimes. So we're going to wrap up this meeting. We appreciate Wes. We appreciate, Charlotte here.
Thank you, Wes. We appreciate
Arlene
it.
helping with signs, everyone else.
Please
Have a good night.
make a comment on how you felt about this meeting.
And then just email. You can email if you got questions on anything. Email martin-drive@googlegroups.com. You got a question on donating. You got a question on volunteering. You got a question because you want to submit an article for a newsletter. Go to martin-drive@googlegroups.com. Just email. I'll make sure it gets to the right person.
Thank
you.
Good night.